Welcome to the latest edition of the OmniTalk Spotlight Series, the series that highlights the people, the companies, and the technologies that are shaping the future of retail. I'm your host, Chris Walton.
And I'm Ann Mazinga.
And today we are turning our spotlight in a new direction. Not a technology or a retailer, but a journalist. And someone I would call a real journalist, as opposed to a pundit like us. And someone who we've also, for a long time, admired quite a bit. And that is Jason Del Rey. Jason is the author of the new book, Winner Sells All, Amazon, Walmart, The Battle for Our Wallets. It's a fascinating read. Jason, welcome to OmniTalk.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
All right.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, we're so excited to have you. We've been following your work. I remember the first time I saw you interviewing somebody at Shop Talk, and I was like, this is the guy to follow. So, and the book, it's been awesome to read. So we're really thrilled that you're joining us today and that our audience gets to hear firsthand from you about writing it.
Yeah, it's been a long journey. So I'm happy to share what I can that both educates people, but hopefully makes them laugh a little bit and gets them to buy the book.
Yes.
That's right. That's right. That's always important, especially as a writer. It's important that people buy the book. All right, Jason, so let's get started. My first question for you today, it's germane to the book, but my first question is, what are you wearing today, my friend? What are you wearing? And tell the audience why we're asking you that.
I'll start with why you're asking, which is I begin my prologue with a little bit of a scene in which Jason Del Rey, not one of the world's richest men, asked Jeff Bezos, at the time maybe the world's richest person, what he was wearing backstage at actually at one of my former employers' annual tech conferences, the Code Conference, where Jeff was about to be interviewed by my old boss, Walt Mossberg. And
right.
And so I'll stick on that. So yeah, that moment, I'd been covering the company 3 years at the time. Jeff, during my period covering the company, really didn't sit down with beat reporters, and I kind of understood it. I mean, things were getting a little hairy for the Amazon narrative. It was no longer just inventive, consumer obsessed Amazon. It was, labor questions about Amazon and the like, and antitrust questions. And so anyway, I had a brief moment with Jeff. I was trying to make him laugh, but also make it clear that I really followed the company closely. And at the time, they were just starting to dabble in private label clothing, and he had said as much, that he was interested in it in a profile, magazine profile. So I asked him what he was wearing, hoped to get a laugh. I instead got like a blank stare and did you just ask me what I was wearing? And his PR person, not happy. I thought I completely blew it. And a few minutes later, he came back after walking away and started asking me what I was wearing. And we got into a talk about Trunk Club and Stitch Fix and melding technology and humans to like build the ultimate stylist, essentially.
Nice.
And so I've only met Jeff a few times, but that was probably my favorite interaction, and felt like a apropos way to kick off the prologue of the book.
Yeah, it did for us too today too. So how long for the audience, like how long have you actually covered Amazon and Walmart as a journalist, to set the stage?
Yeah, so so it's been 10 years now.
10 years, okay.
Which is kind of awesome and kind of horrifying to think it's been that much time. April of 2013, I got hired by Recode's predecessor website, which was called All Things D, or All Things Digital. That was run by Kara Swisher and Walt Mossberg. At the time, it was part of Dow Jones. So my first desk was actually inside the Wall Street Journal's newsroom in New York City, which was very strange because we really competed against the Wall Street Journal's tech section, but were owned by the same company. And so that was the deal. 6 months later, we spun out into a startup company, Recode. As much as Kara and Walt tried, Rupert Murdoch would not sell the All Things D name, which maybe is a good thing today.
All
But
things T.
I mean,
That website's going to return all kinds of results.
I
Jason. So I
mean,
think maybe you
Let's
ended
chat
up.
GPT that one.
Yeah.
right.
I mean, let's just say, I do not tell my 10-year-old who's getting into really, gross 10-year-old boy talk what the site was called back then. But anyway, I just lost everyone. So anyway, so I really wanted to work for Kara and Walt, and Peter Kafka I wanted to work with as well, who's a wonderful media journalist. And they didn't have I was covering media at the time, actually, and they didn't have a media opening, but they had an opening covering e-commerce. And I thought, that's pretty cool. I've covered a little bit of Amazon. I remember breaking a news story about how much they were asking for the ads on the lock screen of Kindles. Shockingly, I got a no comment back in those days from PR. I think the number was like $1 million or something. Anyway, I kind of lucked into starting to cover e-commerce and really grew to love the space very quickly, to nerd out about it.
Yeah.
I think, so important for so many reasons. And so it's been about 10 years. I will say I paid more attention to Amazon in the first couple of years than Walmart. And then with the Walmart acquisition of Jet in 2016, I really started to cover Walmart more closely, as well, as it seemed like they were more serious about their endeavors in online retailing at that point. And so it's been a wild journey, and this book itself has been a 3-year process. So happy that it's done and going to be delivered to doors very soon.
Yeah. Well, Jason, I'm curious, like Chris and I both read the book. We want to know why you wrote this. Like, is it just the culmination of 10 years of studying kind of the back and forth of Amazon and Walmart? And who is kind of the intended audience that you're going after with this?
Yeah. So I wrote the book for a couple of reasons. One is there's been several great books in the last 10 15 years about Amazon. There's been some good Walmart books in the last 20 years, but I think you learned so much about a company, and these two powerful companies, that's two biggest employers outside of the US government in this country,
right,
about how they look at their biggest rivals. I just think you learn about motivations, you learn about insecurities, you learn about ambitions. And I'm also a sports fan, and like rivalries are really cool. And so I thought I would write a book someday if I was the best person to tell the story. And a lot of journalists either pay attention to the e-commerce companies or the traditional retail companies. And I thought I was one of the few that really delved into both and knew both companies pretty damn well. And so I thought there was an important story to tell for the retail industry and the e-commerce industry and entrepreneurs. But frankly, for, smart, inquisitive consumers too, who want to know how these two massive, important companies that are continue to expand in different parts of our lives think beyond the press release.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think the rivalry is just visceral. Like in the reading of the book, Chris and I were talking as we were reading, and I'm like, this is crazy. Like the back and forth. Like one of the things that comes top of mind is like that the day that the Whole Foods acquisition was announced, that the Bonobos acquisition was also announced at Walmart. And it was just like, oh my God, you completely forgot about that. And you just feel like every chapter is like, this Walmart does this, so Amazon does this. And I don't think that we realize that as an industry, just how like deep and rich that rivalry is. So I think that was really interesting how you like decided to bring that up and bring them. I mean, there's entertainment in this that I think is perfect for all audiences, whether you know the industry or not.
I tried to bring out, I'm going to call them characters, but these are real people, right? But I tried to, focus on a few who I think are really crucial to this story. And, hope that the readers get a sense of who they are for better or worse. And because we all have our strengths and we all have our flaws. And often in business, you think of you think of company X did this.
Yes.
And it's, you two know this stuff well, but it's easy to forget for an average business reader. Like, there are people like these people are making these decisions, and sometimes for like not great reasons, or for like not the reasons you might think. Anyway, so I had some, as much of a slog as this plot process is, I definitely had some fun along the way. Just learning so much that I didn't know, in the over the course of my day-to-day reporting over the years.
Yeah. And then the other part of that too is a lot of times the characters in this book are working at both companies as well, which is a whole nother angle to this too. But yeah, like Ann said, it was a great read over the last 20 years. I mean, Ann and I got in this business around 2016, 2017, right when the Jet acquisition happened. And so as she and I were talking about how to craft this interview, there's so much ground to cover in that period of time. So let's start with the Walmart side of things, because I think that's actually where we started. That's what we're kind of most interested in. That's what we talk about the most too. But so you mentioned it, the Jet.com, seminal moment for the company. My question for you, point blank, what is your take on that? Do you think is it overrated or underrated in terms of people's perceptions of the impact it's had on Walmart's current state and the future going forward? What's your take?
I've started to do some interviews, and I'm getting similar versions of this question, and I hate to disappoint, but I'm gonna go with what I wrote in the book, which is you're essentially asking, like, was that deal successful? I think and to me, it really depends on what your definition of success is, right? So if your definition of success is changing the narrative of Walmart in the digital world from sort of a laggard to someone who can make some noise, changing the reputation of Walmart in sort of technology recruiting circles, changing the reputation of Walmart on Wall Street among investors that were wondering for years and years, could there be a high growth segment of this business, and could their market cap expand as a result of that? I mean, I think you'd say it was successful. Now, if you are someone who wants to look at a lot of the decisions made and strategies implemented as one-offs, it becomes a lot more challenging to give a good grade. I think there was a lot of, I think metabolism of Walmart increased. I think narrative changed in a good way, largely among a lot of different constituents. I think there was a lot of missed opportunity as well. I think, so to me, it's complicated, and it comes down to success. I would say I have a hard time seeing Walmart in the spot they are today, which I think is a better spot than they were in a decade ago, if they hadn't made that deal.
Yeah, that's a $64,000 question. It's like, could Walmart have gotten there without the acquisition? We'll never know, right? We'll never know that answer. And would they have gotten there as quickly?
That's the thing. So, and this came up when I was talking to folks about another acquisition that actually didn't happen for Walmart and did happen for Amazon. And I'm not talking about Quidsi, which is one case of Amazon stealing away Walmart Target. Right. I'm talking about even in the healthcare world, PillPack, which Walmart, as I document in this book, it's not a joke, but it's chapter 11. That's the chapter I go into healthcare.
Yeah.
I was talking with someone about why Walmart was interested in PillPack, and this person said something to what related, which was they didn't have anything that like we couldn't build ourselves, but we weren't going to build what they like. Right. It just wasn't
the kick in the butt
for a variety of reasons, and so I think Mark and team, for better or worse, were just a giant kick in the butt for Walmart. And you're right, though, we'll never know. We'll never know what could have been on the other side of things.
Yeah, right. And we'll get to the healthcare towards the end here. I want to talk about that too, but I want to talk about that too. But all right, so I want to have a little fun, staying on the Walmart track. So with that as the backdrop, I kind of figured that's what you're going to say. And I think for the most part, Ann and I would agree with what you just said too.
Yeah.
So if you if you were to rank order the cast of characters in this story, and there's a lot of them, there's Doug McMillon, Mark Laurie, Greg Foran, John Furner, Judith McKenna, Mark Ibbotson even makes a big appearance in this. Who in rank order do you think are the three people most responsible for Walmart's current success?
Oh boy, you're gonna really get me in trouble. So you didn't name one person.
Oh,
He's gonna
okay.
add the dark horse, the
Yeah,
writing.
all right. I love it.
I
named like 8 people too. I'm curious. I think I might know who it is, but I'm curious.
So how about I give you a top 3 and don't rank them?
Oh man! All right. I've seen you on stage before. I don't know if you let people off.
Okay, I'll do it. I'll do. Oh man, if I add this dark horse, I'm gonna really get in trouble then, because then I'm gonna have to bump someone.
You could name the 3 and then give the dark horse too. That's also an option.
Oof. Thinking about all my future motivations right now, and
I know. This is great.
Wow, do you see the sweat dripping?
I'm
gonna play it safe and go Doug number 1.
Okay, good.
I think he I think for what Walmart's tried to accomplish, I think he's been a great CEO. I think people who even leave the company under maybe not the terms they would have loved have 90% great things to say about Doug as a leader and as a person. So I'll put Doug number 1. Geez, what year are we in? We're in 2023. I'll go Greg and then Mark.
Greg and then Mark. Okay. Wow. I didn't think you were going to do that reading the book. Okay. Interesting. Why?
Because I just flipped a coin and no, but the dark horse I was going to say was Lori Fleece, who used to run, at one point ran Corp Dev. And as I was reporting, day to day on that deal, the Jet deal, I didn't really know about her role in that. And as it was relayed to me by a couple of people, including Lori, like she was one of the main proponents of the Jet deal. And it was interesting, what she told me about why. And it was something we just said a little earlier, which was, she told me, I told Doug, like, if we don't do this deal, like, what are we doing to move faster?
Right.
And it didn't seem.
It's a good point.
Is that a great or a not great reason to make a $3.3 billion, acquisition of basically acquihire? I don't know, but that's why, if you think bringing Mark in was super important, again, some people may not, but if you think the Jet deal was super important, like, Lori really pushed hard behind the scenes to make it happen. So yeah, wow.
That's a good ad. Good. The other part too, as you were talking there, I thought about too, the other dark horse candidate in the running to me would actually be the pandemic. Like, I think the pandemic has had a great impact on Walmart's current position and gave it some bullets in the chamber that Amazon didn't have or didn't know it had. Well, what do you think about that?
No, I think that's a great point. And I actually, I made a brief public appearance at an event last week, and the moderator asked me, sort of talk about inflection points in the last 10 years for Walmart, and leading them to sort of how they're operating today in a real omni-channel way. And so one, I brought up the whole, as I did in the book, the Whole Foods acquisition as an inflection point, not in that every Walmart executive was actually concerned because the overlap was really not there in customer base, but in sort of just bringing, Mark Laurie and team used that to try to create some real urgency in terms of expanding online grocery much quicker than they had.
Yeah.
So that's one. The second one absolutely is the pandemic. I'm trying to remember who I quoted about this in the book. I think it was maybe a guy named Greg Smith, who was running supply chain at some point. And he was like, we basically had no choice but to like connect all this stuff that we had been like kind of dabbling with to that point, start shipping out. We went from shipping out of whatever, a small amount of stores to like a couple weeks later 2,500 or something. And yeah, it was either step up your game and like, or just not exist for consumers at the time they need you more than ever. So I think that's a great point. I don't know if you have other thoughts on that, but yeah,
No,
big inflection point, set, a lot of destruction in this world as a result, but uh, a real a real positive momentum wise for the
Mhm.
company.
yeah, no, I think that's really interesting, especially when you did your rank order with Greg Foran and positioning where you did, because him and you spent a lot of time in the book talking about how he and Judith McKenna were big proponents of going after the click and collect or the curbside pickup options, from the success they saw overseas and getting that foundation in place even well before Mark Laurie was there, that process has already started, which I think is an important topic within the question of, would Walmart have gotten to the same place to the same degree, especially considering the pandemic too. So we'll never know, but it's fun to think about, especially in terms of what we do day in and day out. All right, so
You want to know the real reason why Greg, I did flip a coin between Greg and Mark, but
yeah,
Greg now is the CEO of Air New Zealand, right?
right.
Yes.
And my brother lives in New Zealand. And so, I never want to be blocked
You
from
want some
being able to go
perks.
I don't want perks. I just want to be able to get to that country to see
You don't want to be
to
on a
see
no-fly list, Jason.
to see my nephews
Right,
and my
Sure.
brother.
right.
Greg, actually, my brother told me in the fall he was on a flight over here with his then fiance, now wife, and Greg was mixing drinks on the flight. They had a lot of troubles with the JFK to
I
Auckland
love
direct,
that. Love that.
and Greg was up there. He was, I don't know if he still is, but he was, I think, at least weekly, maybe more often, taking that flight
Oh, wow.
and interacting. And you could Greg's a character for sure, but I think that says something about the sort of type of leader and customer focus he has. So anyway, I want to be able to get to see my nephews.
Yeah, I love that. And that's actually one thing that brings up a point, which gets me right to my next question too. And then I'm going to cede the floor to Ann to ask you a lot of questions about Amazon. But I love this. I love this because like that's from our perspective, having worked at Target too. That's one thing Ann and I have long admired about Walmart is, and I don't know how much of this was ingrained in Greg from his time there, but there's a real focus on eating what you cook.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's important. And they do that really well. And so my question for you now, my last question regarding Walmart is, Mark Laurie. Now, this is a direct allusion to your book. Is Mark Laurie actually a good businessman? Or is he, as you kind of allude to, more of a P.T. Barnum type figure in the history of retail here? What do you think?
I think Mark is intentionally good at what he is good at, which is, I think he crafts, really intriguing visions of things that don't exist. I think it's really challenging to get group of really smart people, really experienced people on board with a vision that may seem outlandish. I think he is just world class at raising money.
Yep.
And listen, I think he's brilliant in a lot of ways, and people who love him but also can see his flaws, like we'll say, like his math mind is just spectacular, and he he can see 8 years down the line, into the future, and then you know um all the details about how to get there day to day, like maybe not his strong suit, but I think there's business is a lot about narrative. It is a lot about storytelling. It is a lot, like, in the venture business, like, you can't, I mean, in the startup world, it's hard to do a lot without being able to bring investors on board. And so I'm hesitant to say, but the flip side is, as I talk about in my book, like, I think he and his leaders were in over their heads,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times inside that company. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs would be, you're
Mm-hmm.
talking about the biggest
Yeah.
retailer, right? And so um I think where they got into trouble a little bit was in over their heads at times, and either A, not realizing it, or not being able, well, I guess you don't want to admit it, but not realizing it. And so I talk about, losing, there were times, important times where they lost credibility, where it didn't seem like they knew that they weren't going to hit important internal goals and milestones. And as one former executive told me, like as a leadership team, you cede credibility at that point.
Jason, how much did the acquisitions play into their assessment of their performance as leaders there too? Like the Bonobos, the Moose Jaw acquisition, because from our perspective, those were just strategically flawed from the get-go. And in fact, we wrote about that too quite a lot.
Yeah.
How much did that play into things? Because that to me was the spending spree that just seemed unchecked and unwarranted in our opinions.
Yeah, I think it became checked pretty quickly, right? Like I think they did the Bonobos deal. I think there was one more like Eloquy and
Mod Clock.
and as I go through
and stuff like that too.
some of those were beforehand though, I think. And
right.
And so I think if you look at these deals on the surface and some of them, like Bonobos was 300, 300 something million, right? But the other ones under 100, you could say like, oh, that's nothing for a Walmart. I just think optics wise, they created trouble. And I think, as I go through in the book, I have sort of what I'd call like a mini profile about Jet Black, which was the text message concierge service that was incubated inside. And I think
don't even get me started about that.
Yeah.
I think it caused outsized turmoil for like you talk to folks who were leading it. I spoke to Jenny Fleiss for the book, and she's like, listen, I totally get people not getting it in Bentonville. And we did know we'd have to get sustainable, we'd have to build a sustainable business, but we were trying to learn. And, I think that stuff really, caused a lot of drama and maybe some of it unnecessarily so.
Yeah, the only time I ever got a nasty gram from a PR team was my scathing review of Jet Black as a business idea. So
was that when I'm trying to remember the timing, because I broke news of what they were working on.
It's probably right after you broke it.
And I think my headline probably didn't help, although it was accurate, which said something like Walmart's working on a text message concierge service for rich New York City moms.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, Jenny, but
you must have a doorman for the service is I think what the title of the OmniTalk piece was for this one, because there's no one that's going to be able to accept the deliveries. That was a key component to the Jet Black program.
Yeah. Do you want to take over now?
Yeah, I do. So let's shift gears, and I want to talk about the Amazon part of this book. And Jason, let's go first into what you just mentioned a little bit ago, the Whole Foods acquisition. What's your take there? Got Amazon into physical retail in a way that they could finally compete with Walmart. But do you feel like that was a success or failure for Amazon?
Man, I'm practicing for TV right now with the I got to give the short, no nuance answers, but so I really do have to get better at. I think the deal has not been what Amazon would have hoped. I think
in what ways? Like how
so? Well, listen, I think I don't know. Do you go and maybe you've written about this and I've missed it, but do you go into a Whole Foods today and think the experience is either better or the same as it was pre-acquisition? I mean, for me, and I will start by saying we are a once a month, once every 6 weeks Whole Foods family, not a weekly Whole Foods family. So maybe I'm not the best, but I don't know, maybe it's that seeing the Prime signs everywhere back in the day, really just, was not something I loved. I don't think it's a better experience. And then, I really was, while it was necessary, probably, I was really shocked by them adding back that delivery fee years ago. That was very un-Amazonian. Now they've made that move with Amazon Fresh Delivery in a different way, setting the the $150 I think threshold for no fee, extra fees. I think it's been fine, but I I don't know. I think it's sort of been for a big bet. I think it's turned out to be rather uninspired to date what they've done with it. Now, as Mark Laurie says in the book and some others, now if they had bought Kroger, like like we were screwed at Walmart if they had,
Right.
and so what I struggle with Amazon is I still think they haven't figured out in a real way, like how to be a CPG player where customers can buy, shop the way they would shop in a store
Right.
and not buy a 24 pack and, I get into that a bit in the book and the
Mhm.
drama of Amazon Pantry over the years, which, you know,
Shipping the Diet Coke doesn't make
no,
economical sense.
no,
Yeah.
and like, yeah, maybe it's not the sexiest topic, but I sort of, I don't know, I'm sort of uh super interested in the CPG space and Amazon's challenges to crack it over the years.
So that it sounds like then that, as we get into what Amazon's developing now into this Amazon Fresh concept, that you don't think that that's a legitimate threat for Walmart, or do you?
Listen, I think they're struggling with like what the real differentiation is for them in
Right.
in sort of mass grocery. And I don't think they've cracked it yet. And so I do wonder, I know they've sort of paused the fresh and are rethinking it and thinking the best way forward. I I don't know the answer to this, but I am curious whether they end up deciding like we're going to really go hard and solely at being a technology service provider in the
Mhm.
space versus owning, operating our own facilities. I I think they still really want to
Yeah.
be operating their own spaces. I just think, like I said, um, I think the differentiation has not been there yet. I was talking, when you talk to a former Amazon executive who's a champion of the company, and they say like, "Is saving me 2 minutes at checkout like really what's going to get me into your store when I got to do a bunch of shopping?" Like
Right.
when a champion of the company is questioning that, it makes you think they have a long way to go.
Yeah, I agree, especially when you look at the assortment. Like their assortment has to be there. They're not pulling in the Whole Foods assortment like we maybe speculated when the acquisition happened. It's
Mhm.
kind of a rough combination of those things, and is that going to ultimately compete with Walmart? Still a question, I think, that we'll have to wait and see as Amazon makes a decision about whether or not to go forward with those. I have a question though about another topic that we talk a lot about, Jason, and you cover in the book too, about the differentiator between Prime and Walmart Plus. Is there one? What do you feel like the real strengths of each one are, and as you talk about them in the book? And do you think Walmart Plus is becoming more formidable, especially in light of the news even this week about Amazon starting to look at adding mobile to the Prime membership?
So I've thought there's been a real opening the last couple of years for Walmart Plus to or someone to maybe carve away, from the fringes of of the Amazon Prime,
Yeah.
membership group. And I think, while Prime has 100% gotten faster in some parts of the country, as I documented in the past year, there
Mhm.
are definitely parts of the country, no matter what the company says, no matter what the PR team says, sorry, like I'm sorry, that the experience has absolutely deteriorated. And so to where, 2 day shipping, 2 day delivery is, I know it's always said 2 day shipping, not 2 day delivery, but like darn, you could count
Mm.
on 2 day delivery. And
Right.
there are just some parts of the country where it's not the case. And so anyway, so I think there's been an opening. Um, I think Walmart Plus is interesting for sure. I think I've tested it and had some good experiences and some very bad experiences. And no, I have not tested it under my own name, so you can't look me up, John Ferner. But
We might have to go into a segment about what like code name you're using for this. Is it like
oh
John
man,
Wayne or something? Yeah.
um, maybe it has something to do with this guy.
Oh my
For
God. For
those
those
listening,
listening, he's
I'm
got, yeah, go
holding
ahead, Jason.
I'm holding up a like really scary because of how accurate it is. Jeff Bezos' action figure, which was regifted to me by a certain famous tech media personality who I will not blow up right now, but
And that's buffed out Jeff Bezos action
Yeah, it's
figure,
the
right?
Oh, yeah.
Jason, that's
Hulk
not like
Jeff.
1999 Jeff Bezos.
no. Can we talk for a second about like
Of course.
Elon and Jeff and like how I mean I guess money, the answer is money, right?
Right.
How
It's
this
always
hap-
money.
how this happens? Okay. Because, I've been in my attic office for 3 years now and still haven't come close to looking like that. Guess it's
Well,
No.
you've got too much hair, Jason. I think you've got the salad, you've got the flow, and
got
you
them beat,
can't-
yeah, on that
yeah,
side.
that is what they really truly are envious. They will just beef up their upper body as much as they can.
Oh man. I
compete.
will that that is a beautiful thing you just said. Thank you.
Well, let's
Sorry.
get this thing back on the rails here.
Right.
We were talking about what makes
Oh.
Walmart Plus more beneficial. And one thing I want to tap
Yeah,
into that you
sure.
again you also tap into the book is both companies kind of making the push into healthcare. We talk about PillPack as a consideration early on, but then
Yeah.
now we're actually talking about services in Walmart stores being part of Walmart Plus, the benefits of Walmart Plus. How do you think, like, what was the point you were trying to get across as you consider that Walmart Plus benefit, the Amazon Prime benefit, and thinking about the application of healthcare into this commerce world?
Sure. So I'll start with the memberships. I think I agree, as I say in the book. Well, I don't say I agree with Mark Laurie in the book about this, but I have Mark saying like, listen, long term, like for Plus to be really successful, we're gonna have to take some Prime customers away. Like we're gonna have to
Yes.
steal some Prime
Right.
customers. Like the amount of people who are gonna do both. Like yes, people have a ton of memberships, but I think there's too much. Even if you go into detail, not a ton of overlap. I think on the surface they just sound similar, and so I think Walmart's strengths, like, yeah, can you build really great perks that go beyond what normal most people would think of as shopping? I think would be really valuable. So yeah, the prescription drug discounts, other health services, I think could be a differentiator. The challenge is, with any membership, like the more you put in it, at one point it feels really valuable, and then very quickly there's a line before where it becomes like, wait, what is in this membership?
Yeah.
And I think Amazon has thought about this for a long time, and which is diluting. You end up risking diluting the membership by, and maybe you guys disagree, but I think I just worry. I think I try to remember what like my AAA perks are with my
Yeah.
AAA card, and it's
Right.
like they pick me up when I need to be picked up, and I blow out a tire, and then it's wait, there's like 47 other things, and maybe some people just see that all as a perk, but I just in talking to people who help build Prime, I think they for a long time were thinking about, let's not make this just the everything membership where you start looking at some of the perks and they're not all that great, and
Right.
it sort of brings the value down. So I would just, my only point here is like, I think and we could go into healthcare a little more deeply.
Yeah.
I think there are advantages that Walmart has with pharmacy perks, and as they build out Walmart Health, if they do the physical clinics, that could make this more than a commerce membership in a real way. And all I'll say is you just want to be careful about how much you add to a membership, that without diluting it.
Is healthcare for you though one of those things? I mean, is that what you were trying to get across in the book, that like healthcare is really kind of the key service or component to this future success of Walmart, Amazon?
So I think with Walmart, I think they're clearly very interested in it. What some former executives worried about, though, was their motivation. So I have one telling me that, Doug McMillon and loves the idea of it, but he's mainly interested in the cash flow that a big healthcare business could throw off
Sure.
and how that might help them defend against Amazon and other
Mhm.
rivals in other parts of their business, right? Walmart doesn't have the AWS throwing off all that cash to help out with the retail business. So, my main point is I think both companies are really intrigued by the space. I
Mhm.
think I think they see, a lot of fragmentation in, certain parts of healthcare, sometimes a disdain for consumers and by healthcare incumbents, some margin. And I think they also are just like chasing a little bit the narrative of like healthcare disruption is something that the big employers in this country should be interested in. And
Mm.
so I think it absolutely could be a key to their future. I think, as part of a membership, it could really set them apart. I'm still not convinced the motivations are right. And also they just, at least on the Walmart side, they just keep running through leadership of that
Right.
team.
Mhm.
And that is super problematic. I don't know what the number is now, but something crazy like upwards of 10 leaders over the last decade in health. Like,
Yeah.
how do you build, healthcare is freaking hard. It's not their
Yeah.
DNA. Like, how can you possibly do that well without not only, unified leadership team that lasts a long time, but also a strategy that remains in place for a long period of time?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's interesting. It brings up a point I've never thought with it. I don't think Ann and I've ever talked about on our show, which is like, they're both kind of doing it because the shareholders expect them to do it at the end of the day. That's an important thing to think about. All right, well, let's get you out of here on this. This has been a fabulous discussion. We could talk to you for like
I
3 hours,
know.
I think, if not more. So next time we got to get a beer or something. The next time we're in the same place,
I
physically, but
mean, can we do a physical event and sell some books? I'm
let,
down.
let's
Yeah.
do it,
Minneapolis,
man.
Minneapolis in the summer is a
Hey,
beautiful
we're all
place.
there for
So
that, man. Yeah, let's
Yeah.
okay,
try it. Let's do it.
okay.
We're more than game for that. All right. So two questions to get you out of here on. So one, what was the main point or maybe couple points that you wanted people to take away from this book? Like, I put it down reading it. What I was trying to think about, like, what would be the main point you wanted to drive home?
Yeah. So I think so. I'm gonna give a couple. One main point is we have two companies that say on the surface they're very consumer obsessed, right? And I just think knowing as an average consumer that um, these companies have other motivations. I'm not telling people to change where they shop. I'm not telling people to be angry at the leaders of these companies, but I'm just trying to make us, part of what I was trying to do is make us more educated consumers. And especially as they go, and that's the point about healthcare, right? Like this is a totally different game for a lot of them and matters in a different way to consumers. And so let's just understand who these people are a little better and what their motivations are. So if you can come away from this feeling like I know what Amazon and Walmart's motivations are better than I did before, um, I'd be happy. I'd be happy with that. I think the second takeaway is that uh like is this do we I definitely don't want a world where only one of these companies sells us everything, right?
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
are you should we be comfortable with a world where um two of them, control whatever it is and they want more, right? And so
Mhm.
I struggled where to finish this book because this battle is not over, right? So there's no natural ending. And where I sort of ended up, and some people may like, some might not, which is I'm hoping the competition between them means maybe someday better healthcare for people,
Mhm.
maybe someday better wages for warehouse workers, maybe someday um you know continuation of good prices for consumers. But I also just think well, I hope that's the case. Like, I still think regulation and labor groups and startup activity in the commerce space are going to be key to making sure we have a healthy commerce world. So sorry. I'm sort of passionate about those two buckets. And if people can feel like they walk away feeling those things and understanding them a little better, I'll be happy. And then just lastly, like I I love the commerce industry, and if there could be, I think there are lessons throughout for leaders and entrepreneurs, and and some of those lessons may be, wow, this person I thought had immaculate decision making, and I could never be as successful as them. Actually, like some of it was luck, and some of it's like challenging. Like, I don't know, feeling good about what you can do in this industry, either because you're inspired or
Yeah.
because you think, wow, I've made a bad decision. That's a pretty bad decision. And this person's, really successful. You know, I I think I'd be happy about people coming away feeling those things too.
Yeah, right. That's an awesome point. Yeah, and the other thing too, that I love the question you raised there too. Like, monopolies aren't good, but is a duopoly any better? Like
Mhm.
that's fundamentally the question you're asking, and I love that. So, all right. So, last question: as we look 50 years out, goes back to the title of your book. Who will win? Putting you on the spot here, man. It's like that old commercial. Learned it by watching you. Uh, who will win? And maybe not who will win, but maybe who's gonna be further ahead in the race, 50 years down the line. If you had to pick a
Um,
horse, who would it be?
so I'm 41, so I'll be 91. Don't know that I want to be 91, but uh I'm gonna really upset both of you. I think it's gonna be a company that does not exist today.
Ooh.
Really?
Yes.
Why?
Um I think if the last couple of years didn't happen on the Amazon, the last year or so didn't happen on the Amazon side with the cut, I think Amazon seemed really unstoppable, at least to me and a lot of people I know, until about a year ago or
Mhm.
so.
Mhm.
And yes, call it macro impact, but between the layoffs, there was a lot of undisciplined spending, I think, in the last few years under Bezos, and as his focus shifted in a couple of different directions from space to new love interests. Uh, I just think,
Yacht proposals,
Yeah,
I
right.
yeah.
mean, one of my closest college friends actually is a yacht journalist, and was, yes, that's a real thing, and posted a video a week or two ago. He was out. He happened to be on a boat, and he was circling Jeff Bezos's boat, and with the beautiful mermaid statue on the front of it. Anyway, sorry, really getting us off. Um, I just feel like I I just feel like Amazon's at I think it may be day 2 or close to it,
Yeah.
and it's really hard to work your way out of day 2. Um, I think both companies will exist 50 years from now, but I think we're going to be talking about, or whoever the next Jason Del Rey is, God bless her soul, is going to be talking about a different. I think they're at day 2. I think Walmart. I don't know. I think they're gonna both grow in a lot of interesting ways over the next 10 or 20 years. I just think it's damn hard to be thriving 50 years from now. And maybe they'll prove me wrong, but I just think we've been every few decades in the commerce industry, what is it? Amazon came 30 years
Yep.
after Walmart, something
Mhm.
like that,
Mhm.
right? And
Mhm.
we're about 30 years out. It may be a company that's just getting off the ground now. I named some at the back of the book. I name, Instacart, I name Shopify, I name Shein.
Yeah.
I don't know. Today we'd probably, some people would want to name Temu, like, who knows?
TikTok, who knows? Yeah, right.
TikTok, listen, I think TikTok, I've not covered TikTok very closely beyond, what their how they've dabbled with acquisition talks, but also with commerce initiatives. I think they're really formidable, and so we'll see.
All right, that wraps us up. Thank you so much, Jason Del Rey. His new book, Winner Sells All: Amazon, Walmart, and the Battle for Our Wallets, drops on June 20th. Jason, where can we and everyone listening get the book?
So you can get the book wherever you normally buy your print books, ebooks, or I'll give a big plug to the audiobook. I hand selected our fabulous narrator. It's not me. My wife will tell you you don't want to listen to me for 1 hour, let alone 10 hours.
Yes.
So
Fair.
and the narrator, you know, he does a lot of great business books. He also does some romance novels I discovered and going through his like the second and third pages of his portfolio. So there may be some surprises in like chapter 6. I don't know.
Oh my God. Well,
Yeah, I
it
mean,
definitely plays up to like the saucy back and forth of the rivalry this whole book. So I think
Yeah.
I think you picked the perfect guy.
he's got a sexy voice. I mean, yep. So anyway, I'm not an audio, you know, I'm not the audiobook person, but if you are, there is
Yes.
no better narrator to read about, you know, Mark Laurie and Jeff Bezos and
My God, the
all
bromance.
all the commerce nerdery you could find.
Oh, well, thank you so much again, Jason. Get the book June 20th. We appreciate you spending time with us today. And as always, on behalf of all of us here at OmniTalk, be careful out there.